What sparked your interest in doing a rhetorical analysis of Warner Brothers, you may ask? Well, it's simple. It all started with a little game.
Is he doing a Jesus pose? Oh, it's great, huh? Oh, he's holding it.
The production of Warner Brothers' Justice League film was an unmitigated disaster that I've researched for the last 3 years so I can make the most historically accurate jokes when I bring my friends over to play the Zack Snyder drinking game. Every semester there would be some new drama generated by the former cast, and every year another detail revealed about the awful conditions on set. It was like the Justice League movie was a moving feast of chaos.
Learn it? Did you want to fight? Is that the deal? Whoa, bro.
And so my friend group must revel in it every semester as if it were a bombastic ritual to summon an eldritch god. And after 3 years of research, my eyes have been opened to the sheer amount of dishonesty and manipulative tactics that Warner Brothers Studios uses in their communications to try and silence whistleblowers and act like things can just return to normal without taking any accountability. These three texts I will go over will be exercises in dishonesty, in an understanding of rhetoric that obfuscates and asserts a narrative, rather than building clarity and allowing the audience to reconceptualize relevant facts. Let's begin with the Warner Brothers Discovery financial report for the fourth quarter and full year 2017. While having an elaborate hierarchy of well-moneyed producers for their films, which we will see more of in the next text, Warner Brothers still relies on the capital flow provided from those who buy their stock on the New York Stock Exchange. Warner Brothers follows best practice by publishing their quarterly financial statements and delivering yearly recaps to investors. Given that at this time the Warner Brothers Discovery merger just happened and was stuck in legal limbo due to a lawsuit from federal regulators, the company was in rough shape. The month that this piece of communication was released, their stock value had just started to rebound after losing 10 points starting August. The release of the theatrical cut of Justice League marked the lowest low in investor trade confidence, with the movie being unable to earn a profit, depressing stock price until January of 2018. It is also known that several anonymous producers and WB stakeholders had come to the press after the movie was released, claiming that the film's producers tried to push out the film as quickly as possible to earn their last bonus check from WB before the company merged. The accounting department of Warner Brothers Discovery then was tasked with reporting that what WB did for that year in such a way that would build goodwill with investors. The document is typical for its genre. The text is left-centered black sans serif on a white background that's repeatedly chunked into 1 to 2 paragraph sections under bolded headings. Other than the logo on the top left corner of page 1, accounting grids break up the chunks of text in a consistent way that supports the findings in the words of the text with the charts. But then I noticed something. I had to try and 100% fully commit to reading this to decipher whether or not the company made money last year. I furiously scrolled to the first page of the document looking for any affirmative statements and an active voice about the company's earnings. I found this in a section of this release for investors that tells them that their company has been less profitable this year in the fourth paragraph. Not in like a smaller paragraph that's spaced out, like the quote from the president of the company saying the year was historic because they bought a share of the Oprah Winfrey channel, but in the fourth paragraph. Making this presentation, I had to look long and hard for a press release like this from WB, and I had to skim through the whole thing twice, and I swear that was only now, halfway through editing this video, did I learn that Warner Discovery had a diminished rate of return that year. My eyes aren't drawn to it with the way that the white space on the document funnels me toward the graphic on the second page, in the same way it does the world-changing news that Warner Brothers entered a profit-sharing deal with Oprah. And damn, does the author talk about the wonders of making money with Oprah over the fact that had I owned stock in this business, I would have lost money since the price of their stock depreciated. I would be very frustrated if I were an investor in a media company I bought stocks in, threw around the name of the most successful self made woman in all of media to distract me from the fact that said media company is losing its return on investment value. If I'm in the industry, I'm trying to get Oprah rich, not have this woman be used as a distraction from the money I lost in return on investment. And on top of that, the specific language to address how the return of investment shrunk is only part of a much longer sentence that tries to put a bandage on the last statement. That's not to mention some other misleading use of space when looking at the segmented results. I may be mistaken, but I feel as if arranging the 2017 and 2016 columns from right to left, and thus highlighting the difference in the numbers alone over time, as opposed from left to right, illustrates the sheer numerical difference as opposed to, again, the rate of return of investment that I'd be looking for as an investor. It is a use of design proximity that makes the intended reader have to look even harder and deeper into the document to find essential information, rather than having this information available on an accounting sheet for increased visibility, thus obscuring the essential information of the text. Instead of leading with relevant information like that to this intended audience, the accounting department that wrote this text is able to continue leaning into the profit that was gained by the company, despite being lower than expectations and thus giving me a poor return on investment. And while this other point feels like more like a nitpick, I find that the organization of content in the rows is too vague with just US networks and international networks. This might make me an unpopular person, but having US networks cover the entirety of revenues gained from WB Discovery properties, including cable network streaming platforms, and internal investment into WB's film studio makes the term feel nebulous. While it is easier for the eye when the accounting chart is visually consistent and clearly delineated, I feel as if the following pages that break down each row over both quarter 4 of 2017 and the entire year of 2017 brought to be a bit more descriptive about what was actually being done with the many millions of dollars allocated on projects and then brought back with the said profits, or lack thereof, of these projects. Either way, we've spent enough time looking at this example. Let's do something else. Here's a statement submitted to Matt Donnelly of Entertainment Weekly magazine by an anonymous spokesperson from Warner Brothers Studios when the magazine reported on Ray Fisher's social media posts about his case against Warner Brothers. This isn't the same kind of anonymous as last time, but instead simply a message from Warner Brothers, and likely their legal department or someone down the chain of command who had a boss who was really upset with Ray Fisher. In 2020, during the height of the Black Lives Matter protests, Ray Fisher, the actor for Cyborg in the Justice League film, posted a viral tweet claiming that the production under Joss Whedon was a hostile workplace and that efforts were taken by Whedon and Warner Brothers producers and higher ups to use special effects to lighten the pigment of black actors and decenter the film from the black and disabled superhero Cyborg due to concerns from Warner Brothers executives Toby Emmerich, Jeff Johns, and John Berg that we, quote, can't have an angry black man at the center of our movie, end quote. These claims about racially biased and abusive treatment on set were verified and expanded by other members of the cast, including Jason Momoa, Ben Affleck, and Gal Gadot. This text is from later in the conflict between Ray Fisher and Warner Brothers, after an internal investigation was launched by post Justice League DC Films president Walter Hamada. I believe that this comment was written by a mid level accountant or immediate inferior to Hamada because these two paragraphs seem so direct and curt, and with little regard to any consideration of how space is managed, that I don't feel as if someone put in the time and expertise to respond to Ray Fisher's claims expressed in the article. The lack of consideration on usability, giving us two chunk paragraphs with no regard to contrast, no change in text style to provide visual cues, makes the whole text feel more abrupt. The anonymous Warner Brothers representative instead relies on the article's author, Matt Donnelly, to format the piece italics and have it up center space between the thick margins of the online news article. This makes me the audience for this text from WB that's published in an entertainment magazine. Feels if the anonymous author inside Warner Brothers cared so little about actually giving a genuine, effortful response to Ray Fisher's concerns that they instead just slapped something together and emailed it to the author of the magazine article instead of making their own separate document that addressed Ray Fisher directly. And then, of course, there's the fact that the spokesperson is anonymous. Returning to the relationship between the writer, reader, and text, anonymous authors aren't the kinds of writers who are able to pony up many appeals to ethos. An audience is skeptical of a writer who has nothing to put on the line for speaking their piece. In the same way that I'm skeptical of the claims of election fraud and white genocide from my elderly neighbor, as he is free from the consequences, severe ass beating, of his actions due to him being behind a computer screen. The kairos of this text comes to question as well, because, again, if the writer doesn't have the commitment necessary to write and publish something without facing whatever consequences may follow, then I am more inclined to think that the issue this author is concerned with does not matter enough to have that be the hill they die on, so to speak. This leads to the Warner Brothers spokesperson claiming things, including shit that never happened, without the ability to claim authority on the issue. Instead, the writer of the document just claims stuff on a sense of authority that hasn't been established any further than them being a part of Warner Brothers. And then the last one is context specific, with the context being that the author mentions shit that never happened and is well documented to have never happened. A week before this response came out, Ray Fisher was all over Twitter with a screenshot of an email he sent to his legal team after he and his union appointed legal representative did a phone call with another anonymous Warner Bros. Representative who acted extremely shady. Same goes for the other loosely phrased words and other facts that, as I understand it, are intentionally left out. Now let's conclude with a now infamous tweet from Warner Brothers with its sophisticated use of document design that tries to establish goodwill with a social justice minded audience while also attempting to erase Ray Fisher from the narrative. During Black History Month 2 years ago, this Twitter account put out this tweet. Notice anything off? The fans sure did, because the response section is full of people upset that this post, during Black History Month, failed to include a reference to the first black superhero in a Warner Brothers movie, Ray Fisher's Cyborg. I'm sure that this has nothing to do with the fact that Ray Fisher is attempting to hold Warner Brothers accountable for their previously mentioned abusive behavior. This tweet failed to fulfill its purpose of directing Twitter users toward the catalog of Warner Brothers movies created by black talent, and instead became a forum to publicly call out Warner Brothers for disrespecting and abusing black talent. There's no goodwill set between the writer and the audience, especially when Warner Brothers has a lot of work to do to establish an ethos of diversity, equity, and inclusion. There are elements not related to Ray Fisher that are a bit off too and ultimately feed into this lack of goodwill. The accompanying text to all 4 slides of this tweet are Deadshot, full stop, Black Canary, full stop, Bloodsport, full stop, before showing the depictions of these characters by their respective actor. That's the thing about it. It's showing off the characters, but there's a lack of clarity on who exactly these actors representing these characters are, unless you know their face already. If the purpose of this tweet is to make Black History Month specific advertising for films made possible by black talent that people may have not seen in a while or not at all, then I know many would appreciate there being text that says that Deadshot's played by Will Smith, or King Shark by Idris Elba, Or Black Canary by a woman I had to take 5 minutes to look up because she's in a movie I didn't watch. Me doing a Google search to find out who Journey Smollett is defeats the purpose of advertising her, the black individual whose talent brought Black Canary to the screen for the first time. It instead feels like Warner Brothers is using her face to sell stuff without giving her full credit. And it feels kind of like exploitation. And Black History Month was made to fight against that. With that design choice not being taken, the massive font that screams more than a month between the first three slides and is then restated in the fourth one feels dishonest. Elements of design like how the more than a month is carried over into four graphics and boldly contrasting letters are used to great effect. I would even say that the fourth slide's use of negative space draws me toward the message of the document in an effective way. But without a bit more cohesion, oversight, or goodwill with one's audience, the message of this tweet from Warner Brothers falls flat. Thank you for enjoying this video I created for my professional writing class. By the time this drops on YouTube with full captions, this will have probably taken me 10 to 12 hours to complete. Best of luck to the rest of my peers.